Week 7, it is our first preview of the year, but we're just happy to be here. Glad to be with you here on this Thursday night. Hope you are enjoying what is bye week for a couple of entire conferences and some more teams along the way. I'm Joey McWilliams here on Midwest Sports Net, and it is a privilege always to get to visit with you. I think even more so recently. Let's get to our previews of the week in front of us. Only 27 games on the docket, and actually, we know for sure it's going to be a little bit less than that actually get played this weekend. So we'll talk about that. First is some news off the field. Kansas Wesleyan making a change. Kansas Wesleyan University, and this is the read from the Coyote website. Kansas Wesleyan has announced that head football coach Matt Myers has stepped back from the head coaching position effective immediately. This was a couple of days ago. This was printed. David Leonard, football operations and passing game coordinator, and Chris Snyder, assistant coach and recruiting retention director, will serve as the interim co-head coaches while a national search is conducted. Myers will take on another role at KWU in the coming weeks. So just to let you know, Kansas Wesleyan 18-10 under Myers' leadership. We'll see how that pans out. Of course, they're heading into divisional play right now, so it is an interesting time to make a change mid-season. Kansas Wesleyan, a little bit less than the pace that the Coyotes had in the previous two seasons. 8-3 in 2022, 8-3 in 2023, but just 2-4 this season. So management has made a change there in Salina. Also, Mountain Mercy announced last Friday that it is adding football as its 20th intercollegiate sport, with competition expected to begin in 2026. There are currently 97 teams competing in NAIA football. Now, there are a couple of other teams that are on the outside looking in that we think will probably be in NAIA programs before long, but Mountain Mercy will be one of those. And again, they're expecting to compete by the fall of 2026. The Mustangs currently are a part of the Heart of America Conference. So there you go right there. All right, let's look ahead now and let's start planning for the week in front of us, or the Saturday in front of us, if you will. One of the first games on the docket, let's look at this. Dordt taking on Mount Marty on the road. The Defenders 4-0, Defenders playoff team last year, as they are making their way through the GPAC, and they take on Mount Marty on Saturday again on the road. Dordt 3-0 all time against Mount Marty, won 49-20 in 2023. And Dordt defeated Doane last week 38-3. Mount Marty defeated Briar Creek in the Catholic Cup to set a program wins for a season here in year 4. It was 36-21 over Briar Creek last Saturday, and Mount Marty now coming along. Dordt led by Caden Harkin with 10, had 10 receptions for 217 yards. 2 touchdown passes last week. Mount Marty is led by Malachi Hartz, carrying the ball very well. By the way, let me just ask you, if you are watching us live, let us know from where you are watching us in the chat. Sure would like to see that tonight. And don't worry, if you're watching the replay right now, let us know in the comments section from where you are watching us on this Thursday night, or whenever it just happens to be. This one is a big one, a top 10 matchup in the NAIA rankings, not ratings. Number 3, Indiana Wesleyan, 5-1. Number 10, Marion, 4-0. Indiana Wesleyan leads this all-time series 3-2. It's not a long-standing series, as the Wildcats, relatively new to the football program, but a big win last year, 42-40 in 2023. IWU over Marion really made that push into the playoff for Indiana Wesleyan. And it was one of those things, too, that everything seemed to click for the Wildcats in the regular season last year, including that big stop at the end of that game. Indiana Wesleyan defeated St. Xavier 39-7 last week. Marion defeated Taylor 35-34 in what has proved to be a very big win. You may not think so. Last couple of years or so, the Trojans have been down, but a big win 2 weeks ago, 35-34 for the Knights. Indiana Wesleyan led by Kyle Antoine, who set a new passing yards record, 31 for 45, 395 passing yards, last week and 2 passing touchdowns. The Knights are led by Keegan LaBelle, 26 carries last week, or 2 weeks ago, for 263 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. By the way, Indiana Wesleyan got some news this week. Their game with Madonna on the basketball court is going to take place in the home of the Indiana Pacers, and that's going to be a big one. You should check out the website there. Shout out to Dale. Hey, Dale, good to see you tonight. Roll Stangs. We'll mention the Stangs just a little bit later on. Morningside actually playing this week, so we get to talk about them just a little bit. All right, let's bring this one up here as this. Now, this one's already in the books, so we're not going to be talking about Warner and Kaiser very much this week, unless you want to talk about a game that's been canceled. So this one already canceled, of course. I'm sure everyone is aware of Hurricane Milton and the damage that has taken place there. It's because it's going to be something that's been being sorted out for a long time. So this one has already been called Warner and Kaiser. This one already announced to be canceled. And it is a conference game as well, so not going to be made up, not enough time in the schedule to put something at the end before you get to the playoffs. Kaiser will definitely be a playoff team, the number 1 team in the country. Another game that we're not sure about yet on this one, and tried to get information the last couple of days, still not getting much information on this one. Southeastern is undefeated on the regular season, 4-0. Florida Memorial 2-1 have the tie on the record. Southeastern 3-1 all time with a 35-24 victory last season. But again, we don't know how this one's going to play out, so we'll see. We do know a little bit more about this one, and it will not be played on Saturday. In fact, the Weber and Thomas game is going to be played on Sunday in Thomasville, Georgia. So be on the lookout for that one. Weber International at Thomas. It's Military Appreciation Day. I would think every single game would be Military Appreciation Day for Thomas, as they have the military program going on. Fantastic job Coach Mitchens is doing there. Weber International 1-0. This is the second meeting, and Weber won last year 28-10 in 2023. As the Warriors lost to Southeastern 45-0 last week. First time that Weber has been shut out since Southeastern did it 3 years ago, back in 2021. Thomas lost to Ave Maria 28-14, and the Nighthawks have lost 6 consecutive games. Let's move on. Pikeville picks up its first win of the season last week, and it was a very, very big win over Reinhardt, defeating Reinhardt. Not only the score, 47-21, but it keeps Pikeville in position to, after starting the season 0-4, have an opportunity to pick up that championship from the AAC. And we know Pikeville and Reinhardt fighting for that in recent years. This is going to be a big win. It's going to prove, I believe, to be a very big win for Pikeville as the season progresses. On the road at Kentucky Christian, also 1-4. Now, Kentucky Christian has taken a different route. Won the first game of the season and has since lost 4 straight, losing to Point last week 30-22. Hey, Ashton, thanks for watching tonight. Sure do appreciate that. Thanks for letting us know, too, that you're online. Appreciate you stopping by. Pikeville led by Lee Kirkland, 35 for 51, 299 yards passing last week, 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. Kentucky Christian led by Jet Engel. All right, moving on along. Let's go ahead and stay in the Appalachian for just a little bit longer here. Union Commonwealth. Trying to get used to saying Union Commonwealth. That's a little bit longer than just Union. Taking on St. Andrews and Union Commonwealth. Both teams coming in at 1-4. St. Andrews 4-2 all time in this series, but Union Commonwealth won 33-6 last season. The Bulldogs lost to Bluefield last week 20-7. And St. Andrews' game with Lindsey Wilson was canceled, but the Knights have now lost 18 consecutive games. So we move on down the line, and we were going to pick some tonight. I think we're just going to scroll on through and move on there. I'm not sure I'm back to the picking stage just yet. So give me a little bit on that one. Point and Reinhardt, a couple of teams that need to get back on the winning side. Of course, Point last week did defeat Kentucky Christian 1 win this season after opening 0-5. It was a 30-22 victory over the Knights for Kentucky Christian. Reinhardt lost that game to 47-21 to Pikeville. Now, here's where it becomes a little bit more interesting. Reinhardt not out by any stretch of the playoffs, but it is a 9-year streak that is on the line now, and Reinhardt coming into week 7 at 2-4. So this is important for the Eagles to go ahead and take care of business at home against the Skyhawks. Big game for Reinhardt on Saturday. Lawrence Tech. Let's move on. Let's go from the AAC and move on over to Lawrence Tech. 1-3, taking on St. Francis. 3-2. Lawrence Tech getting its big win. Not only a win and first win of the season, they do it in spectacular fashion. 77-18 over Judson. St. Francis lost to Taylor 58-36. The Trojans, by the way, are 5-1 on the season. And I had a chance to visit with Coach Mingo earlier today. Excuse me. If you haven't had an opportunity to see that, it was a great interview, 2 interviews, as a matter of fact, that we have online on the website, and the 2 most prolific ground games in the NAIA in Taylor this year, and of course in Friends. We know the Falcons are going to run the ball too. So check that out, by the way. We'd love for you to get to hear more information. But St. Francis losing to Taylor last week, 58-36, as the Trojans ran up the score. 3-2. St. Francis and Lawrence Tech 1-3 on the season. All right. 2 teams, DSU, Dickinson State 4-1, Dakota State 4-1. Dakota State lost its first game of the season last week, a heartbreaker, 13-12 against Mayville State. Dickinson State with a victory over Valley City State, continuing to roll in the North Star Conference in its swan song season. 19-6, the Blue Hawks, and the Dickinson State Blue Hawks, 9 consecutive playoff appearances, 9 consecutive wins in conference play. This is the final season for the North Star, and these teams will be moving over into the Frontier Conference for next season's play. 2 teams at 4-1, 2 teams with opportunities here. I don't think you count Dakota State out of this by any stretch of the imagination. Again, 4-0 coming in to last week's game. Comets get the better of them, but Dickinson State on the road. Now, again, the Blue Hawks, well, the North Star has just been the backyard for quite a while. This one could be a good one and worth watching. Only number here, if you're a Blue Hawks fan, you want to keep this one in mind. Dickinson State, 24-2. all time against Dakota State. They won 40-14 and 52-0 against Dakota State in 2023. And yes, of course, there were 2 games because they play that double round robin schedule. First meeting ever for these 2 teams as Defiance moving from Division III into the NAIA. Well, this season 2-4 the record so far. On the road at St. Xavier, taking on the 3-2 Cougars. First ever meeting between the 2 programs. St. Xavier lost to Indiana Wesleyan last week, 39-7. 5th-year quarterback Stuart Ross passing at a 65.3% completion rating. Let's move around a little bit. Let's go back down to the Mid-South for just a moment. And this one, a couple of teams needing a win, the Tigers especially, but it's the first game of the season for Mid-South play. So no one, again, out of playoff contention at this point in time, and the Tigers have been rolling through the Mid-South in recent years. Faulkner lost to Lindsey Wilson last week, 47-21. The Tigers defeated Reinhardt. Big win for Georgetown, 34-31 on a Nate Kraft 20-yard field goal with 2 seconds left. Georgetown led by Garrick Slunaker, who's been passing at a clip of about 240 yards per game. So that one, a big opportunity for Georgetown to set the pace in the Mid-South Conference. Moving back to, let's move on over to the GPAC here. We go to the GPAC? I think we can do that. Midland, 3-3 at Briar Cliff, 1-3. And I think some of my GPAC record numbers are off. I think I got conference records as opposed to overall records. This one's right, though. I know this one's right. Anyway, 3-3 and 1-3. Midland 16-5 all time in this series, won 56-14 in 2023. The Warriors defeated Waldorf, newcomer to the GPAC, 28-14. Briarcliff lost in the Catholic Cup 35-21. One more time back up to the North Star as we see Jamestown, not only the North Star in its swan song in the NAIA, Jamestown making its farewell tour. And so the Jimmies are 0-5. I guess it's one of those things too. When you move out, people know in advance, hey, listen, this is going to be your last year. Everyone wants to take their best shot and send you out with a loss and say, hey, listen, the last time we saw you, we got the victory there. So Jamestown 0-5, Valley City State 1-4. Valley City State with the 23-15 victory in 23. However, they had to forfeit that game. So Jamestown got the win last year. That was due to playing an ineligible player. But Valley City State, 64-55-5 all time. It is the paint bucket game. So that's a big one. The 125th meeting between these two schools. Valley City State, 7-3 in the last 10 meetings. It's also the Ag Bowl this year for Valley City State. So big game going on at Valley City State and, of course, in the North Star. Stephen. Hey, Stephen Dale, nice to see you too. Great to see you're feeling better. The Dale family was praying for you. Absolutely. And I just wanted to say, yes, thank you very much. If you don't know, it was a rough summer, rough month and a half, and definitely on the uphill side right now. And I promoted a couple of other videos, so I have a video about that. If you haven't seen that, check it out. That is also talking about how the summer went. Praise God. It's nice to be in October, and we're headed toward the midpoint of October. And I will tell you, Stephen, I'm happy to be alive, and I'm also I'm happy to be feeling better. So another thing about these too is that these videos in particular, I do a number of videos for another job that I have, but these videos I can do sitting down. So we can go a little bit longer on this if we want to. Just kidding. We're not going to go too long on that tonight. Doane at Dakota Wesleyan, each team with one win. Doane 23-14 and 1 all time in this series. But Dakota Wesleyan got the 17-10 victory last year. Doane lost to Dordt 38-3. Everyone's been losing to Dordt lately. The defender's really on a roll right now. That Doane has lost 3 straight. New management there, so the Tigers getting things sorted out. Dakota Wesleyan defeated Hastings 31-10. That was last week. That was the first win of the season for Dakota Wesleyan. All right. Hastings at Morningside. Hastings 2-3, Morningside. It should read Hastings 3-3, Morningside 4-1. And I said I got the conference records in there. I apologize for that one. Here's the number if you're a Morningside fan. Mustangs 20-2 all time against Hastings. And, of course, Morningside won 55-18 last season. Morningside also defeated Mount Marty 45-6. And Hastings lost to Dakota Wesleyan. We mentioned that earlier, 35-10 last week. Now, Morningside starts off with the loss against Benedictine. And that really was a good home and away series. Really glad to see that on the schedule. I hope those are some of the things that stick around a little bit longer. Yeah, Dale, 4-0 sounds a lot better. So, if for anyone just watching this with the sound down, then Morningside actually looks a little bit better in that. But staying undefeated in GPAC play, of course, that's really where it counts. And I would think, okay, we're just going to pause there and say, if logic is used, and for those folks who do the setup in the playoffs and get the playoffs together, I have a number of disagreements, but nobody in Kansas City asks my opinion anyway, so that's okay. But you would think against a team like Benedictine that a loss, and a close loss at that, would be something to just kind of, gloss over that one a little bit. Morningside, though, doesn't want to lose again the rest of this season. And let's talk about a couple of things. When we had the forum and I invited some of my friends back at the first part of August, and we talked about previewing the regular season. I am on record. Check it out. I am on record as having picked Morningside to win the GPAC. So The Mustangs definitely still have some more work to do, but and I need to go back and watch that again because I think if I didn't say it, I wanted to. I thought that Coach Ryan was going to go with Chevalier this year. Opportunities with other quarterbacks. It was kind of a 2-quarterback system in 2023, and I don't think it panned out the way that everyone wanted it to. But with Chevalier, he sets a record right off the bat. They get into GPAC play, take on Concordia, a Bulldogs team that got a huge victory last week over Northwestern, a bye week this week for Coach Daberco's squad, and the Bulldogs are rolling right now at 4-2. But a big win over Concordia early on. Chevalier sets a record, and this is another thing that's big. You want to talk about somebody setting a record for passing at Morningside with the quarterbacks that they've been producing there over the last few years. Well, Chevalier was 44 for 57, 481 yards. The yardage, not the record. The 44 completions, the record. And so that's a big deal there. Drew Sellen in that game sets another record. The receiver with 18 receptions. Now, he did have 2 touchdown receptions as well. So I haven't had a chance to really talk about Morningside this year. And the first time back on our top 5 program last week. Of course, Morningside was on a bye week. So shout out to Dale, to Dave, and to all the Stangs fans who stopped by and watched the program. Morningside 4-1. Sorry, Dale. Going to be hosting Hastings at home. And again, the number that you want to be looking at, you hope this one sticks around, 20-2 all-time for Morningside over Hastings. All right, Lindsey Wilson on the road at Cumberland's. The Blue Raiders, 8-2 all-time against Cumberland's, won last year 48-14. Lindsey Wilson defeated Faulkner 47-21 last week. Cumberland's lost to Bethel 28-17. That is a big win for Bethel, and we'll just move on along to that one right now. Bethel now 5-0. The Wildcats have absolutely been rocking and rolling, I guess is one of the best ways to put that, in the last 3 years, 2.5 years. But Bethel, 10 straight regular season wins, defeated Cumberland's last week 28-17, taking on Cumberland, excuse me, from Tennessee. Cumberland lost to Campbellsville 27-14, the first loss of the season for Cumberland. And Dale, you're right, by the way, the Stangs hitting their stride on offense. But in the Mid-South Conference, Bethel has just been really on top of the world. Cumberland, the most often played opponent for Bethel, and Cumberland has the lead in that one, 14-13 all-time in 27 appearances. This is the 28th, but Bethel won 24-7 in 2023, has won 3 straight in the series. Langston 2-2, Panhandle State 3-2. Langston defeated Nelson last week 35-29 on a Mikel Nash 90-yard touchdown kickoff return following Nelson's touchdown and 2-point conversion to take the lead. And a swing of emotions in Langston last week. Panhandle State 3-2. They're hosting Langston right now. Pretty good job for the Aggies and trying to make some noise in a Sooner Athletic Conference that I think has been shaken up just a little bit in recent days. And let's just move on to one of those. I'll bring this up. I'll skip ahead. I was going to be talking about Louisiana Christian a little bit later on, but Louisiana Christian 2-3, North American 0-5. So the Wildcats have an opportunity going on the road in Houston to pick up a victory and go to 500 on the season. Not quite the season I think they wanted following a share of the conference title in 2023. Wildcats won 55-0 over the Stallions in 2023. North American won 42-41 back in 2021. The two teams are getting set for their third all-time meeting. Louisiana Christian lost to those Aggies from Oklahoma Panhandle State 48-40 last week, and North American lost to Texas College, which brings us then. Let's go ahead. We'll go back to that one in a moment. Let's go ahead and move ahead. Texas College and the Steers are 3-2 on the year. Arkansas Baptist coming in to Tyler at the wrong time. 1-4, Texas College 3-2. Now, Arkansas Baptist is 2-0 all time in this series. Third meeting on the way. the Buffaloes 23-8 victors in 2023. But you have to look at the way that the Steers have been playing, defeating North American last week 25-21. 3 wins for Texas College is the most since 2007. So Texas College and things going well there again in Tyler. Arkansas Baptist, by the way, lost to Texas Wesleyan last week 77-0. They won their first game of the season, did the Buffaloes, and have lost 4 straight since then. Wayland Baptist, a couple of wins early, and I think that the Pioneers are trying to get a little bit of a turnaround under Coach Inahoso. And so 2-3 there. Nelson, 2-3. Wayland Baptist coming off a loss at OUAZ, but just 42-28, as the Spirit didn't get the more than a 2-touchdown victory there against Wayland Baptist last week. And Nelson losing again, rallying to come back at Anderson Stadium. That's a tough place to get a win, especially with that Langston Lion band playing there and well more than 250 in its roster. And you get that there on the east side of the stadium, and the sound coming out of there can be heard for quite a distance away. You rally, and then you come back and fall in the closing minute on a 90-plus yard touchdown return. Wayland Baptist on the road at Nelson. Both teams are 2-3. Let's get one more with a Sooner Athletic Conference team in, and OUAZ 3-1. First ever meeting against Simpson. Well, of course it's going to be, because Simpson is in its first ever season. And the Red Hawks 0-5 right now, losing to Willamette last week 28-18, but just 21-18. I still think there's a win in there somewhere for Simpson, but it becomes increasingly less likely as the season goes on. A couple of the games with opportunities, I think, early on. You start taking on that Frontier Conference schedule, which, by the way, Simpson's going to be a part of the Frontier Conference in the future. Right now, Frontier Conference is just an amazingly tough place to play. OUAZ, we mentioned, defeating Wayland Baptist 42-28. Hey, we talked about the Frontier Conference. Let's get over to it right now. Montana State Northern 0-4. The Lights struggling still. They're taking on Eastern Oregon on the road, and Eastern Oregon 2-3. 20-7 all time in the series, and won 28-3 last season. Northern lost to Carroll 43-12 last week, and MSU Northern having dropped 13 consecutive games. Eastern Oregon defeated Arizona Christian 48-22. It's been a tough road to hoe for Arizona Christian since moving into the Frontier Conference. I thought it might be a little bit easier than what it's looked, but the Firestorm, and we'll talk about them in just a moment, not been able to find much ground, especially on the road. Rocky Mountain 1-4. And the Battling Bears need to continue to battle. Southern Oregon 4-1, lost its first game of the year and had won 6 games prior to that in a row. Southern Oregon 9-5 all time and won 23-5 in 2023. Yeah, 23-5 in 2023. Anyway, Southern Oregon lost to Montana Tech last week. Again, that first loss of the season, 42-35, and Rocky Mountain lost to College of Idaho. Starting to wrap up the show tonight. A couple more games from the Frontier Conference, and we look at Montana Tech 4-1. A big win last week at Montana Western, 3-1. And the Bulldogs with a 56-54-1 all-time series lead. Bulldogs won 38-28 last season, 112th meeting between the two. Montana Tech with a win over Southern Oregon last week. Guess what? Montana Western's last win was over Southern Oregon as well, 2 weeks ago, 28-26. And finally, Arizona Christian, 1-3 on the road at College of Idaho. And Firestorm with another opportunity, but another tough place to play. Arizona Christian lost to Eastern Oregon, we mentioned. College of Idaho defeated Rocky Mountain 49-31. I'll get this right. Andy Peters, a couple weeks ago, with more than 500 yards of total offense. The quarterback just dominating, had more than 400 yards of total offense last week. And so Peters leading the way for the Yotes on offense, has more than 50 career touchdown passes. That's a record, and he's just helping College of Idaho. However, However, Yote's 4-2 now on the season, and it is a tough second half of the season for the Frontier Conference, and really something to be mentioned there. There are folks looking at this saying, well, the Frontier Conference definitely needs 3 teams in again. Season's just midway through. So it's one of those, I am not ready to make that statement. I will say, though, the Frontier Conference, a very, very tough conference. Not ready to say 3 teams just yet. Some people have said 4 or even more because there are 5 very tough teams at the top of that race. We'll see how it plays out. Arizona Christian could pick up a win. Montana Tech and Montana Western, someone's going to get their second loss of the season in that one. And so we'll find out how it all shapes out. It's been a lot of fun tonight. I've enjoyed getting to visit with you right around 30 minutes. That's an enjoyable amount of time to spend. I appreciate that you spend it with me. And so, well, was that the graphic? Nah, it's not the graphic. There we go. I like that one. We have the maroon, the Morningside colored helmet, and we have the blue helmet here. So we'll stick that one up here right now. Appreciate you watching tonight. 26 games that we know, could be down to 25 games on the docket for Saturday. Should be a lot of fun, and some really, really big ones. And that includes Montana Tech at Montana Western and Indiana Wesleyan at Marion. Those are big ones. Then next week, lots more games as the Hart, the KCAC, and the bye week, the big bye week is done for those. Some other teams coming off their bye weeks as well. We'll have a lot to talk about. Don't forget, stop by on Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. We will talk about our top 5 performances for the week, so keep that in mind. And then on Monday, we already have another good visit lined up, and we'll also see if we can talk to some of the big players from Saturday's game on Monday as well. So thanks again for being a part of it. Dale, always a privilege to get to have you stop by the chat. Stephen, thank you very much for stopping by the chat as well. Ashton, thanks for stepping in. Please don't be a stranger. Come back and let us know from where you're watching. And we just enjoy talking about all these teams. Of course, I see that brown and gold there and Rolling Saints. So I have to think you might be cheering for a team that's on a bye week this week from Illinois. So maybe we'll get a chance to talk about that. I'm Joey McWilliams again here on Midwest Sportsnet. God bless you all. Thank you very much for watching, and it truly is a privilege to get to visit with you tonight.